Good evening. I'm Father Russ Carmichael, and this is Street Talk. I want to thank all my viewers for tuning in. You people are so wonderful, okay? I got a great show for you tonight. I got a great guest, okay? Dominic Cotton, my co-host, is so good. He's been so good getting really good people over the last year and a half. People who wouldn't normally talk to Father, but come in because of Dominic. Before I start though, I do need to say hello to all the postal workers here in New London. I love you guys. I want to thank you for the 14 years of service that you've given me in New London. Bob, okay, I know you watch all the time, and the ladies down there, you people are wonderful, okay? I should tell everybody the story about the Pope, how you all said, he's got to be a Roman Catholic priest because the Vatican sends stuff to the post office addressed to me. Well, we never know, okay? But I do want to say thank you to all you guys, okay, and to everybody out there. Prayers go out to all our folks that are sick and under the weather. Bobby Burlon, who's usually with us and works with us on the show, is down at Yale, and hope he gets home quick. Okay, and finally, I want to congratulate all the New Londoners for the new mayor, Michael Passerai. You know we love you, Michael. We all thank you. And to all the Democrats, you all rocked, and bless you, Peg Curtin, and the whole Board of Education. I think we wiped out the city except for one person on the Green Party on the Board of Ed, and that's Myrna Martin. Right. Yeah, so Democrats, guess what? Took the city back all the way. God bless you. Well, right now, talking about guys and people on my show, okay? I got a guy I couldn't get on 6-7 years ago. He was always busy. I have Jim Amann, former Speaker of the House. Okay, actually, that's Speaker Emeritus, right?
Emeritus, yes, correct.
Right. Former Speaker of the House of Connecticut, Jim.
Great to see you.
Great to see
nice
you.
To be here.
And
it's great.
Officially, right?
Yeah, nice to be back in the studio.
Back in the studio.
Right.
It's been years, right? Last time I was seeing you, I did see you in the studio with Murray, but
Correct.
it was down the State House.
Correct.
I was probably banging stuff and yelling at you.
Most likely. Most likely.
He probably had a line of convicts up behind him. Scared the hell out of people.
Always, we fill those rooms up with convicts and bad guys and stuff like that.
It's no different than a normal day at the Capitol.
Exactly right. But you're doing a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And Dominic got you up here because he wanted to pick your brains.
Good.
Good. About the real politics.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
And a little later on, I want to talk about your business.
Good. Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. But I know Dominic, because I kind of know.
He knows what happens behind the doors.
Being brought up in a political family,
Yes.
having cousins that both were state auditors of Massachusetts.
Yes.
My brother was the chief investigator for the state auditor and now is a sheriff, Middlesex County. I worked for Governor Sargent, Republican governor, right out of prison too, in the 70s. And Bill Bulger, at that time, of the brother of the famous Jimmy Bulger, was Speaker of the House, and was a personal friend and all-around nice guy. Believe it or not, Billy Bulger is no crook. I don't care what anybody says. Okay, I've known Billy a long time. Whitey is a damn crook, and was a damn crook, and been a damn crook. But Billy, no way. He was a wonderful Speaker of the House, cared about all his people, cared about all his constituency, and he was a great leader at the University of Massachusetts, too. Should have never lost his job. but anyways, I'll leave that alone. But I know a little bit about, but Dominic's learning.
Yeah.
Well, I came around to this late in life. I mean, I just became a citizen actually back in July.
Yeah,
I
that's
finally
awesome.
did it. So,
That's great.
This is my first vote around. And I know in the back of my head, I was probably about the time that we were dealing with a lot of our issues up in Hartford over brain injury about a couple years ago. In the back of my head, I had it to call you at some point because I wanted to figure out how to lobby or get
Right.
the attention. Of course, I ran into this guy. And we did a lot of fun stuff within that. But one thing I guess I always mystified me is that on issues that are seem so plain, how many different players that there are, like really, coming from all different ends of things, and how I guess the speaker's office and the pro temp and the governor all end up together on sometimes, I don't know, it's like a collision course, I call it.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Between it, and I see that quite a bit. I mean, right at the moment, obviously, we were wishing that you were going to be governor back in 2010. I'm sure there's probably quite a number of people who feel the same way, especially in the difficult circumstances. But what's it really like to be in the speaker's position?
Well, first of all, it's an honor. Quite frankly, it was pretty amazing. I remember in 2005, to stand up there and actually have the gavel handed to you by the former speaker, Maura Lyons. It's an amazing day because, if you don't mind, I'll start your first day as a legislator. Okay. When you go into the state capitol and you walk in as a freshman, and you sit down, I'll never forget the day. It's exciting because you're with your family, but when you sit at your seat with your name on it, and you sit in that historic chamber, it's an awesome responsibility, and beyond that, it's just an honor to be able to represent your constituents. And I remember Speaker Balducci was up there, and I was looking at him like, how did he ever become Speaker of the House? I was in awe. And I can tell you, gentlemen, if you were to ask me, first term, second term, third term, fourth term, or fifth term, as a state legislator, if I'd be Speaker someday, I'd say, are you crazy? So you never know.
You never know.
You never know how things go and how they happen. So from that moment to be Speaker of the House, it is a different position. I was Majority Leader too. I was a chairman. And as you said, Dominic, I thought I knew a lot when I was a freshman. I thought I learned a lot. I thought I knew pretty much everything until I became an assistant leader. And then your leaders over here said, nope, that's not how it's really done. Let me show you how it's done. So now you're like, okay, I didn't know that. So now the next you're a chairman of a committee. And you think you know pretty much how things get done. And when you're a chairman, you find out, I didn't know that's how that got done. And so on and so on and so on. Every level of leadership, there are these ways of what you do know and how things really happen. So when you get to the speaker's position, you know pretty much the whole, all the secrets where all the skeletons are buried. You know how to deal with the governor, why you're dealing with the governor, because your other speakers before you tell you. Your other majority leaders tell you what's going on. So you're by the time you reach that position and you go out and talk to people that, had the power before you, and you don't be arrogant to think you know it all, because believe me, you don't. Listen to people that you respect, and then remember why you're there. That's the most important thing. And I was very lucky. I had a few good speakers. And I'm not going to name names. I have a couple. Most of my speakers were great. One of them I wasn't that keen on. I won't want to insult anybody, but my point is, if your speaker is there, is now your new constituency as a speaker is your caucus. Of course, you can't forget about your hometown, but your first obligation is that caucus. And not just the caucus, but as a speaker, actually the whole chamber.
You got the whole chamber, right.
You're responsible
Your
for that
role
chamber.
is different.
Your role's different.
Right.
Respect for everybody, listen to people, don't think you know it all, but also in that position you have the power to influence because you've earned that spot to tell your fellow legislators how and why we should be going a certain route. All right, so when I first got to the caucus, the first thing I let everybody know when I became speaker was that they are now my constituents. I am there to make them look good. I would never do anything to put them in harm's way. If there are problems they have, remember, number one rule, family. I've seen too many families up here. People destroy their families because of drinking, partying, affairs. And I understand we're all human and we all fall. But what I'm trying to tell you is don't forget why you came here. Don't forget your family. You get under this gold dome and it's like we're in our own world and that everybody's paying attention to us. They're not. They're home with their families, trying to pay bills. So that's what you should be doing. When we're done here at night, I promise you one thing. I'm going to try to get you home at a decent hour. Because before that, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, which used to happen a lot. So that's number one. My job was to protect them, make them look good, not to do anything that's embarrassing, and most important, get them reelected. It wasn't about me. And when it's about them, that's a leader you need to get rid of. With that, you earn your respect. So then we'll get into the real teeth. That's kind of the speech. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty.
And the nitty-gritty is problems come up. And you got problems and you got to deal with them. Okay, and there's a good speaker, one will deal with it, say, in the back room. People don't like that thing, but the fact of the matter is, there's a need for the back room.
You're darn right. And I have to mention this, and I'm not playing any political who I want for president, but Senator Rubio said something the other day that disturbed me. He said, hey, I'm running for president. It doesn't matter if I'm not showing up for votes. Oh, yes.
It does.
Oh, yes, it does.
Oh, yeah, it certainly does.
You were not elected as senator
To run for president.
to run for president.
That's right.
If you decide to run for president, that's okay. You have the right to do, but you have to remember your constituents and why you're there. And that is so important. So when you get into a big issue, let's say the budget, the gun issues, death penalty, all the big ones. Even ones that aren't as big, but to some constituencies, such as helmet laws for motorcycle riders. Those very, very divisive issues. You need the thing that happens in the back room, and this is what I was saying going with Rubio. Rubio's influence, oh, I know what he said. He said, it doesn't matter because by the time I get on the floor to do that vote, it's already, well, thank you, Senator Rubio. That's the way the world works in politics. You're darn right. By the time you go on that floor,
It's all over.
it's all over because as a speaker, remember what I told you.
Exactly.
Rule one, I will never embarrass you. You're never going to put a vote up there, okay, that's going to get you in trouble in your district. And if I know it's going to get you, Father, or you, Dominic, getting thrown out of office, I say, Dom, I've got 98 votes. I only need 71. Take a walk on this. When I mean by walk, I don't like people to take a walk. Vote no.
Yep.
So that was another thing. Count your votes,
Count your votes.
know where you're at,
Right.
and do that. So And when you go in that back room, the first thing you do is, okay, guys, here's the issue as I see it. And I lay it out. Now let's have a discussion. And I don't care how long it takes. And these caucuses can go on for hours and hours. But there used to be a speaker that would cut you off. 2 speakers that I know of would cut off discussion, caucus. That's when you cause rebellion.
Big mistake.
Because they're going to get really mad at you after a while that you're not letting them express. The speakers that I learned from allowed everybody to speak. He said, we're a family in here, we're a team in here. And you have to allow everybody in respect. Now, if you want to disagree, this is the place to do it. You want to have a fight, you want to push each other around. Okay, we're going to break it up, but everything happens here. You don't bring it in front of a camera, and you don't do it on the floor of the house. It's in this room. It's like a family table. There's going to be arguments, there's going to be disagreement, but at the end of the day, we're walking out here as a family. And the most important thing, keep your mouth shut. You don't talk about what happened in the caucus, okay? Because once you leak that out to other people, you're gonna dissolve that as a strong caucus. So that's part of it. And then when all that fighting is done, all that disagreement, all those horrible things that may or may not be said about each other,
Yeah.
okay?
Which is,
Because
yeah,
it can get brutal in
It can
there.
get brutal, right?
And you let it go to a point where you don't want to get fist fights, but you let people go. Because I found out, it's like almost like being a good psychiatrist. When you're up there for so long, away from your family, fighting these issues, by the time you get into these caucuses, session is halfway over, and you're tired already. And you get frustrated. And you're mad because you're fighting for that kid at home that needs a wheelchair, and you just found out in the budget, Mr. Speaker, you went up there with Don Williams and with Governor Rell, and you coming back to me, tell me, I'm going to support this budget when you cut out my constituent that's, needs this money to survive. You're right, okay? Next, we're going to listen, and we debate it. But then you explain that we have to make some very horrific choices sometimes. We really do. And this is why we need to do it now. This is now. And I have to try to convince them that this is the proper budget to support. Now, they'll say, we are not supporting Mr. Speaker unless you change these 7 items. You don't change those 7 items, you can tell Don Williams, and Don obviously says the same thing to me, and the governor, that we're not having a budget this year. And that's good for me, because now, especially because we have the votes, right, the Democrats. And when I was out there, we had 114. We took a 92 Democratic caucus and brought it up to 114 when I left. It was the biggest Democratic caucus since Nixon, since Nixon was thrown out. And, unfortunately, it's got dwindled down to 87 or something at this point. But we built that up to 114. So I could lose 20 votes at a time. I could lose 25 votes and still win. It was good for me. It allowed us to do a lot of things and not hurt a lot of people. Because then Dominic can stand up, okay, knowing that he didn't get his piece in there. And Dominic says, Mr. Speaker, I got to get on the floor. I said, Dom, you're okay, okay? And you let the person speak on the floor and put his passion and put his vote up there that he's against it. Now, what happens, though, if we got a vote, and I know it's a close vote, and I've told my guys this all the time, I would never, ever ask for your vote unless I desperately needed it. I would never put you to put a green or a no up there that I know that could hurt you unless I desperately needed you. And there were a few occasions. We're up there and I'm looking at the board and our count was 3 votes off. And I'm saying, how the hell did that happen? I counted in there and I see 3 names up there that I know told me they were voting for me,
Something's missing.
right?
Right.
So this is the fun part, Tom. You committed to me in caucus. You make your commitment. You don't back off your commitment. That's sacrilegious. So now I see Tom's got a no vote up there. So you see, you have these guys on the side, and you wonder what they do all day. Your aides, your assistants, and you see the speaker pick up the phone. And sometimes you'll see the majority leader answer the phone. Because when I was majority leader, my job and the majority leader's job, he's the general. He's the general.
You're the quarterback, like
He's
getting everything set up.
Right, he's the general down there. And he's got to make sure that the votes we had, so I say, Mr. Majority Leader, would you go ask Tom what the hell he's doing? And you keep the vote open. That's the other thing too. We have a vote board here. We know how everybody's voting. A lot of people don't, it takes a few years for people to realize, how's the speaker even know? How's he keeping it open?
I've been in the chamber. I see it, and
You'd be amazed how many people don't know, you didn't know it for years.
I
that
go
there was a
back.
board up there.
I go back and I look at some of the votes that have been out there.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of the people that are involved in it, and I can see
Right.
where they are in the position where,
Right.
yeah, they need to vote no if it's like a tough on crime type thing, and like our bill
Our situation,
came up.
this is what we were trying to,
And we
I was
look at it.
trying to teach them fast politics, and they didn't
Right.
want to listen. I said, look, this is compromise, this is what you gotta do, this is, otherwise you shouldn't be in the game.
Correct.
If you don't think that you sometimes are going to vote on things you don't like, you
Right.
have to do that, because you may get something that you
Correct.
need down the road.
Correct.
If you can't play that, and you can't deal with that in that game, then you need to get out.
Correct.
Okay, because
That-
that's the reality.
Correct.
Of what, so we were trying to,
Well, I know last time around, when they wanted to
Explain.
make changes to our program.
to our ABI
And,
program.
you know, I actually went through the process. I called up CMS and asked them about the
Yeah.
rule and followed up and did all this
I'm in the
stuff.
middle of a CMS right now with Rosa DeLauro, by the way.
All right?
Yeah,
So
yes, matter of fact. Yeah, funny.
DSS doesn't really like me that much. I think there's a dartboard with my face
They
on
certainly,
it.
they certainly have one out.
Might be right next to mine.
But three of them were, three people, and I know because they gave me the amendment.
Yeah.
And they said, you know, they were the ones that held out to make the caucus, you know, come
Excellent.
around
Right.
and change. And, you know, those are the people that do that in silence
Correct.
are the ones that, you know, I most appreciate, and I made sure, you know, I called them up and I thanked them, and,
Very
you know,
important, very
I
important.
tell them, you know, look, you guys need anything on my end, you know, I want to be there for you because, you know, I appreciate when people go ahead and do that. And being in the middle of it, I know what it takes when you do put yourself out there, and we're very fortunate on our issues.
Yeah,
We get across the board.
We've been
We
very
get a lot
fortunate.
of Republican support. We get
Yeah.
a lot of
Right.
Democratic support. Republicans are usually a bit more vocal in their
Right.
support because they can be.
Right,
They're in a
Correct.
minority situation, and they can talk more in that.
right.
But it's the ones that silently, you know, go in and do the work. And, you know, we've had some,
Second Chance took, oh my God, I mean, took years. I mean, that was a serious fight, not only a legal fight and then dealing with the thing. I mean, because again, emotional and stuff like that, and
Sure.
you know, that was one of the toughest issues that I had dealt with in a long time, outside of probably the death penalty was probably the most difficult. And we fought with that both here in Connecticut and in Massachusetts and stuff like that, and all out through New England. But very, very hard. Those are emotional issues. Those are,
Right.
you know, and you got real people that are really hurting and they really believe,
Right.
you know, it's not an easy, those are not easy issues. In fact, anything that you and I deal with
they're
are
never
not,
easy
they're
issues.
not easy. You know, because we're talking human lives,
Right.
Okay, and we're talking pain, and,
Right.
and it's difficult, it's really difficult.
And that's what makes it very difficult for the public sometimes to say, how could they be?
How can they do
How could they
that?
not support that?
Yeah, right.
How could they cut that?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
what's wrong? And the truth is, it's like the movies. It's like Sophie's Choice sometimes, certainly not that dramatic, but it is to the point of things that we know that if we cut that, there are people that are gonna hurt.
Sure, yeah,
And,
Yeah.
but on the other end, true, but on this side, if you don't, there's another group
it's
over
gonna
here.
hurt if you
And we
don't do
don't
it.
have enough resources
Yeah.
to do it unless you want to put up another $1 billion worth of taxes and go home to your constituents. You want to do that? I'm willing to do it if that's where that's where the fighting
That's
starts.
That's where the real.
You know,
fight
because
starts.
it always comes down to money, doesn't it?
Yep,
And I think all of us, you know, as human beings, if we're very efficient and effective on the way we spend our dollars, and I think we all want to be. We don't want to waste money because every dollar wasted is a dollar we could have put to help somebody else and make someone's life better or make someone's business better, depending on the perspective that you look at the political realm. But the caucuses are obviously, as we talked about earlier, is where all the work is done, where all the fighting's done, where all the decisions are made. But we start early. And what we do is you set out, this was another thing that's very important. You have to set out, you know, I always, guess because my sports background, I always looked at that as team, we're a team, this is the game plan. So we would have a game plan. And what I used to love about that, and I think we did very well with it, we would go off campus and we would have our easels with our, you know, boards up there. And we would go around one legislator at a time, 2 days after the election. So actually, this should be the day that they should be meeting up at the Capitol. And then we would say to each person, Father, when you were knocking on doors, what was the issue? And we have all our leaders, you know, assistant leaders and up at the board. They were talking to me about Plan B. This was one of the ones, you know, the Plan B pill. I was told about the budget, jobs,
yeah,
disabilities, whatever the issues were, gun issues, death penalty. And we would have our board, and we'd have each one would get up and tell them the top 3 things they heard. So now you start to form a little bit of a game plan. And then once the game plan is made, we took that information and we drafted it. Then we came about a week later as the leaders and presented it. And I remember we had a blueprint for Connecticut's future, healthcare. We had one about, it's funny, they use our name too, Energize Connecticut, that came from us,
Yeah,
about energy and green.
Right, right.
Anyways, so we present and we'd have the boards, everything that they talked about on these beautiful boards, and we actually gave them a clipboard with their game plan. And then I said, do we all agree that these are the things we're going to fight for this year? And everybody, the majority says, yes, these are our priorities. Well, within 2 months, people are bringing up issues, and I bring them in once. I say, guys, where are you going? Tell us that's our game plan. Show me where on our game plan.
This is.
Well, you know, I talked to Ralph. I talked to Ralph at the bar the other day, and Ralph said, oh, Ralph the lobbyist?
Oh, my
Yeah, Ralph the lobbyist. And the lobbyist says, okay, I said, well, listen, Ralph probably has a good point, but the bottom line is that's not on the game plan. So you start with the game plan, you implement the game plan, keep them focused on the game plan, and at the end of the day, you have a product there that most people are happy with.
Very good. Good call. Good evening. You're on Street Talk with Father Russ and his guest.
Hey, Father Russ. Good program, yeah. I do have one question for your guest.
Could you speak up just a little bit?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
A little better.
All right. I have one question for your guest, and as a voter and not a lobbyist, is it people first or party first? because me and my fellow taxpayers, we don't mind paying taxes as long as we get a return on our investment. And by that I mean, it's like, let's pick something out of the hat. We got the Amistad. Millions of tax dollars going to support a ship and a foundation, and there's no return on our investment. So they voted to give money to those type of programs when that money could have been diverted to the soup kitchen or social programs. And as taxpayers, that's where we start to say there's no difference between Republicans and Democrats and who's looking out for us. Because when it comes to election time, the average guy is besieged with, I need your vote, I'll take care of you. After the election is over and let's say whatever party gets the majority, that average guy who needs the curbs replaced in front of his house gets nothing. And we don't see another politician till the next election cycle. So I understand party politics. I understand it's a two-party system. But what happened to the average guy's representative? And I'll hang up and wait for an answer.
That was a very, very excellent question. Thank you.
Very good question. So, okay, yeah, go ahead.
Well, you know, obviously, he feels the frustration that most Americans feel right now. And quite frankly, it's funny now that I'm on shoes on the other foot.
Right.
It's funny that I also get frustrated also.
Right.
So I think we had a little conversation before the show. It is important on a local level and on a state level. You have more say as a constituent with those individuals than you do sometimes our federal guys. Not saying that they're bad people or great people, whatever, but it's important that you as a constituent be in contact with your elected official.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know we're busy. I know we got lives to lead, but it's so important to be able to pick up a phone and say, hey, Representative Amann, you know, what happened on that vote?
When I'm
Make
here-
them accountable.
Yeah.
And I, as we had said earlier before the show, even now that I'm out, the years I served, there were about a third of the legislature on both sides of the aisle that I felt did constant constituent work,
Right.
worked hard all year round,
Right.
wanted to make a difference.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of legislators, not disrespecting them, it's part of human nature, they get complacent sometimes. But if your constituency doesn't challenge you, okay, or keep you on your toes, complacency does happen.
Well, you and I are talking the same thing. That's why I do what I do. That's why I have the organization that I do, and that I push, and that I have Dominic running around and getting people on this. There's a reason why we do this. I hear what you're asking. You support the soup kitchen, somebody else supports the Amistad. Guess what? There's only a certain amount of money. If you want to get that money to the soup kitchen, you need to get out and get your people to the polls and vote, because that's why they'll listen to you. People listen to me and Dominic
Because you speak up.
because I get votes out, or I'll get you out of office. And that's the hammer, okay? I get what I want because I make sure our people go to the polls. Michael Passero is the mayor of New London by 3-1 vote. Our people put him in there. Our people put him in several years ago when he went in, and we followed him, and we'll support him because he's on our issues, and we love him, okay? Now, anybody that doesn't like what he's doing, guess who they're gonna fight? They're gonna fight the constituency that we have, okay, to get, because we have Michael's got a plan, and that's the plan we want to implement. We want your blueprint.
Well, I mean, I can almost hear the argument between that gentleman that just called
Right.
and the Amistad. And let me give you a little brief conversation. Someone would stand up in the caucus. Let's say it's a New Haven rep, let's say it's a Black and Puerto Rican caucus member. They feel that that Amistad is part of history. It's good for tourism. If we spend the money here, they have all these expertise that will come out. There's going to be $1 million brought in every year. As we all know, those are projections. Those are decisions you have to make. Now, if someone else says, hey, wait a minute, I love the story of Amistad. I love that it was done right here at Sonolets, by the way.
Yeah, right here.
Right here.
Yeah, exactly.
That set's still there. Those are wonderful things. But you know what? I hate to tell you, I can't support that. How do I go back to my constituency in Norwich, okay, that I have drug rehabilitation and problems over here, and neighborhoods that say they don't want any more of these places opening up in their place, in their hometowns, and we have crime, and we have, how can I go back and say, geez, I just spent $5 million on the Amistad? Because my constituents aren't going to understand that. So it is about lobbying, whether it be a paid lobbyist,
Right.
or a constituent lobby,
Right.
or people saying, no,
Right.
we can't do this. A prime example just happened over in Stratford. Stratford, they had, there was this thing over.
We almost had John on. He
Oh, you
couldn't come on at the last minute. And then I went and dug in at the other side, and I found out all that was going
On
on.
the sewer stuff, or?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
I know.
I
Deep in it.
swear to God, I didn't bring it up because of you guys.
No, take
But
it. That's fine.
there's a prime example. Now, the Mayor Harkins, a Republican, I served with John, and I always liked John, quite frankly, personally, not politically, but personally. But John felt that they wanted to sell a big asset in Stratford,
Yep.
which was their sewer plant. I think around $65 million asset.
I think it was,
Something like that.
they had bonded left on it. They had 39 million
Right.
bonded left.
Correct.
They were gonna get 16 million.
Right, correct.
From the sale, and then New
Hey.
Haven was gonna
Correct.
take the bonding off their books.
So in fairness to Mayor Harkins and his philosophies, he feels regionalism, selling an asset, having somebody else run it, take the cash, reinvest it into economic development. From his viewpoint, okay, I can see John, know John. In his viewpoint, it's a business decision, it's an economic decision, it's a long-term decision, and it's the way of the future. That's what John's thinking. The other people say, wait a minute. First of all, most municipalities, if you talk to leaders, are not in the real estate business. Number one, that's not your job. Number two, do you really think you want to sell off an asset like that from the community? So the arguments from the other side were, this is crazy, this is insane. We lose control. Who knows who we're going to
knows
sell it
what's
to?
gonna happen, right?
What, that guy you're talking about down the line, how do I know who they are? At least with here in the municipal, it's our old Yankee,
Our own
it's old Yankee thinking, right?
right.
It's ours, we can control it. I don't want Milford to tell me what to do. I don't want Bridgeport to tell me what to do. Stay out of our business. So there's a prime example of two good arguments. There's economic sides to both, and people have to make decisions. But it comes down to persuasion.
Yeah.
It comes down to persuasion.
I know my big one that's gonna come all the way back around again, because I know I fought against them closing down in Milford Harborside.
Yes, yes.
And I saw that, Board of Aldermen, obviously I'm very involved with my aldermen and
Yes.
the other people, and, I saw that they bonded out, for the roof and to
Right.
invest the $3.5 million, so I'm thinking, oh, good. And he's like, no, you don't realize now. That's a bigger asset because now it's been all upgraded, so if somebody wants to come around and utilize that, then,
Correct.
that's gonna be like another issue. So I'm already pre-planning that I have to start talking with Board of Ed members, because I know it's 5 to 5 now.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And
correct.
I'll talk to both sides, because I know
Correct.
one side supported,
This
not close to
This
that.
is what we're trying to show here, and we do on the show, and TV, and even for the years that I've been on Street Talk, is you need to be involved and you need to be politically aware of what's going on. If you want things, you need to get out there. You need to participate as a citizen. As simple as you want the people on. 3 votes. We have 2 people here. There's going to be a recount in New London for certain people. There's a 3-point spread between a Democrat
Amazing.
and a Republican getting on the
Well,
council.
didn't Groton have a
And-
tie vote?
They may have.
For
They may
selectmen
have.
or something.
And-
Clinton, sorry.
Clinton,
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
Clinton.
so
That's
I mean,
amazing.
it is so important. People don't realize, when we're talking about a couple of votes, it's a couple of votes.
Right.
When we started here, you know, in New London 14 years ago, they said, well, you're crazy. Well, you got a TV show? I said, well, I'll show you how crazy I am. I'm gonna develop 300 votes right away. I had
That's a
figured out-
block.
Well, that's a block. And I had figured out how much the voting population was, and I was doing the homeless, you know, ministry, the food thing, right? I said, I'll get 300 homeless and stuff like that, and they'll vote as a block, and I'll show you what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna go on public access, because I used it in Boston. I said, and I'm gonna tell people what we're doing. And I was told I was crazy. Well, you can't do that. Well, the very first election we affected, that 300 votes was enough to get somebody off and get another person. That's how close these elections were. So over the years, and now we know we're far more than 300 in New London, but we try to show and explain to people, you've got to be involved. If you want something, if you're crying, you can cry all you want, but if you're not registering voters, if you're not getting out there, if you're not telling people what your issues are, you ain't gonna get nothing.
Well, back to that old sewer thing with Stratford,
So the sewer-
the people stood up.
They stood up,
They stood up, they fought, they said no, and they won.
and they won.
So it happens more so than I think we know when you get those sort of issues. And to that gentleman again about Amistad versus Soup Kitchen,
Right.
let's give another example of that, because it is funny. I was involved in the whole Patriot
Oh, the Hartford
stadium.
thing, yes.
Stadium. I was
Yeah, I remember this.
very much involved in that. So let's go back to then, right?
Even though you're a Giants fan, just
Even though I'm a Giants fan.
reference here.
It was very difficult for me.
Give it a break.
And your music, were you over?
Yeah.
Are we over already?
No,
That's you.
that's me. I forgot to turn my
Turn
phone
about to
off.
turn his phone off.
Those are bad people.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
I shut mine off because my daughter calls me in the middle of, she knows when I'm on.
It was a good song,
She tries to call me just to, you know, drive me crazy. You
So
know.
we talk about this whole thing, right?
Right.
Robert Kraft is looking for a place. Robert Kraft comes to Connecticut with his son. Very charming guy. Talks to all of us. I'm right in the middle of this battle. As you know, we're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars. However, we had just come off success of UConn, which was very controversial. Putting all that money into the university, billion, UConn 1 billion, I think we called it at the time. But we saw that it was reaping benefits for the state. It was bringing revenue. For every dollar we were spending, there were dollars coming back. You look at what we did then, even though it was a very tough vote to spend that kind of money, that was successful. Let's go, so we felt a little, I guess, cocky coming off
Cocky,
that
yeah,
one. So we go now and Kraft is looking for a new home. And we were very close up to the last 2 weeks of getting Kraft to come to Connecticut. Now, a lot of people say Roland was being duped. Commissioner Ritter was being duped. They were not being duped, and I'll tell you, Mr. Kraft was not trying to dupe us. It came to dollars and cents, and what happened was every action has a reaction. And their Massachusetts legislature went to a back room with their governors and said, are we going to let this thing go to Connecticut? And they said, over our dead bodies, what do we need to do? And whenever they did, Mr. Kraft left us ready to sign a contract. And they gave them a sweeter deal. We were shocked. We were shocked. But let me tell you, I'll never forget it. we had a picture of Kraft on the front page of the Hartford Courant, and all of us standing in back, ready to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to bring the Patriots here. And it collapsed, as you know. But let's say, and it collapsed on our side too, because there's a lot of opposition from taxpayers. But let's say we won. We would have all looked like geniuses, Father.
Oh, yeah.
Because they won their Super Bowls
They won
after that.
they won the Super Bowl.
We would have looked like geniuses.
You know what I did? In the Super Bowl, I bet against them.
I don't care.
Because
Everybody was very angry. Yeah.
I said I wanted them to win, so the only way they're going to win is for me to bet against them. They said, "Are you?" I said, "Now, if I bet on them, they're going to lose."
And
You know.
I will never forget it. We were up
But
in
look at
that.
the casinos.
Yeah.
Talk about action of, talk about state politics
Correct.
versus state politics.
Correct.
Which we know happens. Again, you've got to go into a room and make a decision. How are we going to expand the casinos in Connecticut over here? And try to make sure that our constituency stays here. Because guess what Massachusetts doing?
Correct.
They're gonna put a casino up here.
Correct.
And their intent is to bring the people that come down here back over there, that want their dollars. And that decision has to be talked about, what you do, with a bunch of people that are pro and con.
Correct.
Whether and of all things, gambling.
Gambling, correct.
Yeah, gambling. Morally, we got the moral conflicts.
Of course.
And with all those individuals that are sitting in that room.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people realize, you know, that it's a bunch of human beings that go into the back, they always do the backroom deal. Well, guess what? Yeah, okay, you do have to do all the things that you talk about. You have to protect your family, and that's who they are. You have to make them look good, and you have to ensure they're gonna come back so that you can go forward with your blueprint as you see it, and as the guys that are there. It's you know, make it seem like this is a nefarious situation, and it's not. I mean, we had people scolded, which I said several years ago that happened, that they're not my party, but they scolded their person in public. And I went to their town committee person, I said, "What's the matter with you?" I said, "This is your guy. He gets great votes. And guess what? You scolded him publicly." Yeah, I said, "What are you, crazy? So you want to lose his votes?" Of course, I talked him into going into the Democratic Party. He's now a Democrat, and he got the most votes for school board this year. You know, I mean, people, you know, forget really what responsibility is put on you people.
And they, you know, the backroom discussion, there are backroom deals too, we can talk a little bit about, but I'm talking about the caucus, is why Don brought me here today. So when I go back to where we started with those 7 things of disagreement in my caucus, with the Senate caucus, and those 7 actually are 15 that are not in favor of what the governor wants. So now you got to meet with leadership, and you go, okay, we talk, and we negotiate. So maybe I knock off 2 of them, 3. I got to go back to my caucus, say, guys, we won a few and we lost a few. And I explain, and the most important thing you have to do as leader is make sure you're straight with your caucus. The minute you BS them, the minute you don't tell them the whole story, or they hear you double talking to the press, you're done.
You're done.
And those are leaders that don't last long. The ones that survive there are the ones that say, listen, here's what just happened, A, B, and C. How we feel about it. Can we live with it now with these 4 things? Now maybe they got it down, okay, well, let this one go this year. If you promise next year we can do it. Now I'm down to 2, I gotta go back and fight for those last 2. But my job isn't to sell my caucus out. My job is, just like you're my constituent, is to do the same damn thing. I go in that room with what my orders are from my caucus.
From your caucus.
Now what? It's not the other way around.
No.
So now I say, this is what my caucus wants. So that gentleman's point is, it isn't, remember, you have 151 different personalities.
Yeah, exactly.
And you need 76 votes out of those, I think it's 76, 76 votes out of there to win.
Yeah, exactly.
And you need to make sure that when you get out there, you do know how many votes you have.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing more embarrassing for a speaker than to lose a vote. I've never lost a vote on the floor because you better know how to count.
You better know how to
And the
count.
day you walk out there putting a bill up, you better not lose because that's embarrassing in your leadership and they'll take advantage
Your
of you.
leader has to go to the wall with you.
Right,
And you
correct.
gotta go to the wall with your leader. And
Right.
that's what, I can't believe, is
We're-
that's
we're-
a one
see, now-
minute?
yeah, we're gonna-
You gotta come back. I'm
It's a half hour, an hour
to go
show.
down.
It's an
an
hour
show. We've already
The
gone for an
fastest
hour.
hour on
You
TV.
gotta be kidding me.
fastest
Jim, God bless you. It's great to see
Father,
you
you
again.
too. I enjoyed
You
it.
gotta come back. I
I
wanna
will,
talk
Father.
about the movie
Yes,
business.
yes.
I wanna talk about the
We're
politics.
doing one on human
You know,
trafficking, Father, on slavery.
Slavery, human
Yes.
slavery, yeah, we wanna,
Yes.
you need to come back.
It's a
Dominic,
crazy issue.
you've been a great co-host, obviously. You know,
Dom, I enjoyed it.
we're going into 2016.
Yep.
We're gonna have a Democrat in the White House that's wearing skirts, and,
I could put Trump, get me and Trump here, that'd be fun.
oh, I
I'll put my hair just like,
well, you know Trump.
Yes.
You've met him before.
yes, I am. Yes, I am.
With his feet up on
Yeah,
the desk.
feet up on the desk.
You think he'd come in for us?
You never know.
You
never
He's
know.
crazy.
You never know.
Okay. God bless you out there. I love you. Please, all of you, please pray for me. I'll pray for you. I need lots of prayers. We love you. See you next week. Who next week, Dominic?
We're working in between. We're
God, we're in between. Surprise guest.
In between.
surprise guests.